Good evening, gospel revolutionaries around this entire world. Wasn't that nice? Thank you guys so much for joining me here. This is another bonus room teaching coming to you from Clarksville, Tennessee. We've just completed 3 sessions on the term following. I think I could do several more. In fact, we're going to start where we left off and give just a little bit more explanation and then go on from there. The term soon, S-U-N, is usually a prefix word, or it can stand alone. The word soon just means with, but it means much more than, hey, this guy over here is with me. It is also connotes completeness. It also compositely, it means that we're all just one thing. So anytime that this word is used, please understand that the thrust of this word is not just saying, I'm here with this guy. It means that me and this guy are one. We are here not only as individuals, we're here together as one unit. And no matter where this shows up, it shows up a lot. The word just soon shows up a lot in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, saying who was with whom. But you have to understand that when it talks about these guys going or doing anything with someone, it's a very strong implication that they have one mind or one purpose in being together. Looking into this and seeing that Paul, in his use of this term, and especially talking about followers, Paul said that when he talked about the term followers, he used the word soon as the prefix of that, and which meant that we were followers together of Christ. We are not followers individually, and we are not even following Christ. We are together with Christ. You can't follow somebody you're together with. When you're one, you're one. And that is the thrust of this teaching, is this incredible and powerful difference between the way Paul taught about us being followers, and even with him was to be the term soon was added before. And with the disciples, they said, no, you got to follow what the teachings of Jesus. You have to follow in his footsteps. That was not Paul's message, and that's what we were attempting to share with you in the last 3 sessions. We hope that that was a worthy cause and helped you to sort some of this out. Now, to go on from here, there's something that's just really captivated my attention, and it has over and over again. Sometimes I realize that we have brought up a lot of things and mentioning it in passing, and it deserves more attention than that. And one of those is something that we really need to have resolved. Once and for all, let's put this away and stop the polarization. And it's about the crucifixion of Jesus. Now, we do know that many of our mystic friends have disqualified that as Francois has said, that the blood of Christ could have been the blood of any man on earth. That is wrong. That is not true. The scriptures prove that statement to be wrong. We're not trying to prove Francois wrong or Don Keithley or anyone else. But we do have a responsibility, and you have a responsibility to pay attention to what you're listening to. And we're going to see Paul's conclusion here about these types of observations of the work of the cross. In Christianity, it takes on a bit of a different hue, but it is still equally untrue, and that is that the cross did not change God in his approach and his interaction or being one with all of the human race. And they say that he's still angry. One says that he's still angry. The other one says not only was he never angry, but that the blood of Jesus Christ is no different than the blood of any other servant. Now, we're not telling you don't listen to these guys. Please listen, but listen carefully and listen, and you pay attention to what is being said and do it thoughtfully. Some of these people are the most wonderful people in the world. You would not want to meet anyone or have dinner with anyone that would be more pleasant to be around than these folks, because I've done it. I've not met Don Keithley, had an opportunity to, but that didn't work out. In Acts chapter 4, and this is a tremendous chapter here in Acts. We've always let you know that Acts is the Acts of the Apostles. There's nothing about this that says to us that this is where we get doctrine from. It doesn't mean that everything in it is untrue, unworthy, unreliable, but if it matches up with the scriptures, then we can rely on what we're reading. And what I'm about to share with you, I'm going to show you that these are direct quotes out of the book of Psalms, which is where Jesus told us to go looking for the truth. And in Psalms chapter 4, verse 23, it says, and being let go, there was two of the disciples that were called in because they caused such a ruckus. And it says, and being let go, they went to their own company. So it just means that they went to the groups that they hang out with, and reported all that the chief priest and elders had said unto them. So they got in trouble with the chief priests and the elders. And when they had heard that, they lifted up their voice to God with one accord and said, Lord, thou art God, which hast made heaven and earth and the sea and all that are therein. So we have to accept the position that these people were coming from. Others may not think that God created the heavens and the earth, but these guys did. So it's really a little disingenuous to say that you are an evolutionist, but you trust what these guys say. That's a little bit off there. And when they had heard that, they lifted up their voice to God with one accord and said, Lord, thou art God, which hast made heaven and earth and the sea and all that are in them is. Verse 25, who by the mouth of thy servant David hath said, why did the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Now, this is found in Psalms chapter 2, verse 1. I really encourage you to read all of Psalms chapter 2, and it's only about 6 or 7 verses once again, but it's all about Jesus, and we may have time to go back there and take a glance at it in a minute. And it says, the kings of the earth stood up. Now, this is what it says in Psalms. This is what it said in Psalms. So the question is here and was posed by God himself. Why did the heathen rage, and why did the people imagine a vain thing? This is a tongue-in-cheek thing being stated by God, because he knew exactly why they imagined such a vain thing. And he says then in verse 26 of this recording in Acts 4, the kings of the earth stood up, and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against his Christ. This is what it says in Psalms chapter 2, verse 1, 2, and 3. The kings of the earth stood up, and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against his Christ. So who all was against Jesus? All the rulers of the earth and the kings stood up. For of a truth against thy holy child Jesus, whom thou hast anointed, both Herod, 1, Pontius Pilate, 2, the Gentiles, 3, and the people of Israel, 4, were gathered together. So this whole ridiculousness about who killed Jesus, and Jews are Jesus killers, but you see, if Jews are Christ killers, Gentiles are too. All the kings of the earth and all the rulers of the earth, they killed Jesus. Was Jesus killed? Yes. Did God have nothing to do with it, as you're told by the aforementioned? Verse 28 says, for to do whatsoever thy hand and thy counsel determined before to be done. Why were they imagining such a vain thing? To kill Christ? Because God put it in their imagination. Whom did he put this imagination in? To kill Jesus Christ. In every ruler of the earth, all the kings of the earth, all of the Jews, and all of the Gentiles, all together. And this word together here, they're gathered together. It is this term, soon is the prefix in this, and it means they were of one mind. There was only one mind on earth about Christ when the time came, and that was, we must kill Jesus. We must kill Jesus. We must kill Jesus. Sorry, but my 1950s robot movies come back to mind. And they all control the mind control. What was happening as Jesus was going to the cross? Mind control is what was going on. Why do the people imagine a vain thing? I don't do that very well. Here God is asking a question he knows the answer to. Then who needs to know the answer to the question God asked that he already knew the answer to? We do. The whole world needs to know that it was something. What happened to Jesus at the cross? It says very plainly, for to do whatsoever thy hand and thy counsel determined before to be done. If you don't like the Hebrew scriptures, then start quoting Acts chapter 4. Guys, you have no place to run. There's no place to hide. What happened to Jesus at the cross, the death, the burial, the suffering, the trial, his entire life, him being born in the valley of the shadow of death, being raised in the valley of the shadow of death. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my disciples. My enemies. Oh, Michael, you just called the disciples. Everybody was his enemies. There wasn't one person on Jesus' side when he was arrested. They were all against him, including some naked guy running around, which we don't have. I've been doing some research because it's like, that's weird. But there's actually a prophecy about that naked guy. Oh, man. This entire mind was to kill Christ. There wasn't a few people against Christ. When he went to the cross, everyone was against Christ when he went to the cross. They were under a spell. They were under a predestined mindset, and they could not escape it. And they all came together to do whatsoever his hand and God's counsel determined, predestined before to happen. So the whole world, you've got to begin to see this thing. You don't got to do anything, but it would be very wise to begin to see the power of this all-togetherness that God in his predestination did. Now, what has happened is people reject the predestination that brought Jesus to the cross and through the death, burial, and resurrection in the condition that very clearly the prophets and the New Testament both agree as to the virgin birth. They just ha at that. But it makes no difference what somebody laughs about. It doesn't make it untrue. Remember, just because mockery exists doesn't make it untrue. They mocked Jesus, so the mockery means nothing. And in this case, the mockery was predestined. Please don't get all hung up about who killed Jesus. If you're going to get mad at somebody for the death of Christ, you're going to have to get mad at the Father, as they repeatedly say, because they don't like talking about Jesus. I don't know why. The Father, the Father, the Father. Well, the Father said, Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So anyway, as the story progresses, this is a very powerful insight. Now, what was Jesus doing? What was God doing in placing everybody against Christ as enemies? He was drawing everyone together in unbelief so that he might have mercy upon all. Now the term soon comes into play again, where just the same as where this is spoken of by in 2 Corinthians. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find my notes here. In 2 Corinthians, where he lets us know in 2 Corinthians 5:14, I happen to have it right over here. For the love of Christ constraineth us, because we thus judge that if one died, all are dead. And then it goes on to explain if one is made alive, all are made alive. This is in Paul's teachings. Paul's teachings encompass in this part 1 Corinthians chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We will be coming out with more. Maybe by the end of this week, we will be publishing chapter 1 of 1 Corinthians, not only with the pseudographicals removed, but also with some translations, and it will be word for word and thought for thought. We're not going to insert something that's not there. So before the cross, everyone was brought into this powerful, predestined to the work of the cross. So don't go around calling people Christ killers, because you're going to have to accuse everybody. And it was, even if it was one group, which it was not, it was God who put this thought. How is it the world, what's everybody doing imagining such a vain thing? Read it in chapter 2 of Psalms and those first few verses, and you will understand, even as they clearly understood here, that this was to do what was before determined by God himself. So Philippians chapter 3, verse 17 and 18 tell us about Paul's teaching of this coming to be followers together with him. The main emphasis of this, we want you to understand that the term soon, whatever it's connected to, means everybody, whether it's a small group of everybody's or a large group of everybody's, or if it's a gospel group of everybody's. Everybody had it in their vain imagination Christ had to die. Everybody. And they killed him because they did what God himself beforehand predestined should be done. And in a moment of mind control of the entire world. And now that you say, well, why doesn't he do that now and just mind control us? Because we've been set free. You're the one now who, by the power of the Holy Spirit, and knowing that Jesus directed us to the scriptures to go into this wonderful school of learning, he gave us his mind. He gave us his mind. He gave us the Spirit, and he gave us the scriptures. What more do you want? Enjoy.